السادة الحضور، نظراً لضيق الوقت سوف نبدأ الآن أعمال الجلسة الرابعة بعنوان الاتجاهات المستقبلية للبورصات العربية. يسرني دعوة السيد مايكل غريفرتي لإدارة الجلسة، والمتحدثون فيها هم الدكتور أحمد رابلسي، والذي سينضم إلينا عبر الاتصال المرئي، والدكتور كونستانتين ساريان، والسيدة نانديني سوكمار، والسيد سيلفان بيغول. نطلب من السادة المتحدثين التكرم بالصعود إلى المنصة.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for staying with us through this panel. My name is Michael Grifferty, and I head the Gulf Capital Market Association, formerly the Gulf Bond and Sukuk Association. We're very fortunate to be joined on this panel. To my left directly is Nandini Sukumar, the Chief Executive Officer of the World Federation of Exchanges, and to her left, Dr. Konstantin Saroyan, the Secretary General of the Federation of Eurasian Exchanges, and Sylvain Bigot, the Regional Head of Middle East, Asia and Turkey, Africa and Turkey with Euroclear Bank. And we are joined remotely by Dr. Ahmad Trabilsi, an expert in Sharia and accounting standards and a board member of AOFI, and a PhD in Islamic economy in the GCC markets. He's thankfully joining us remotely. Thanks to the UASA, especially to Jalil Tarif and Noor Smoody for organizing such a wonderful event. And we're very fortunate to be with them. So the panel is called The Outlook for Arab Stock Exchanges, and we'll stick to that. We plan to examine the role and contribution of the exchanges in taking our capital markets forward and asking the question, are they playing a dynamic role? Are they suited, and the direction they're taking suited to play the required dynamic role for the economy? And probably the best way to start is to see where we are within the global context and look at some of the global exchange themes that are trending throughout the world. And I think there's no one better to do that than Nandini Sukumar with the World Federation of Exchanges, who has quite literally a global view.
Thank you, Michael, and may I echo my thanks and my congratulations to Jalil and Noor and the team here for convening us all. It's a very important meeting. To set the stage a little bit, briefly, to set the stage, if you look, WFE has around 250 members, right? So we represent around 250 infrastructures around the world. I say around because we count that by number of regulatory license. So for us to consider you an exchange or a CCP, both of which are members, you have to have a regulatory license that says you can call yourself that. Of them, we have around 14 who are members of the WFE just in the region, and then we have about 5 or 6 who are in the queue to join and who are affiliated. And I'm looking broadly across the members of the Union of Arab Securities Authorities, and those kind of as representatives. So let's say around 20. Let's look then at some of the specific themes that are playing out in 2024. I've used as a framework, or let me use as a framework, the WFE's priorities. They're public. Every year our board gets in the room together at the start of the year. We have our typical what should be our work plan and regulatory and kind of industry priorities for the year, bearing in mind our breadth and our size, I think they are representative. I can think of no more representative metrics globally for what kind of market infrastructures are thinking about. And in 2024, we had 5. The first of which was around improving, the corporate governance of the ecosystem. And let's look then at the region or the jurisdiction that we're talking about. And this is a very relevant theme. And when we're talking about improving corporate governance, all the things that Fiona was talking about, that so many of the themes that have played out already today. So some things that you yourself, I'm sure, Michael, are engaged with at your organization, looking at professionalizing an industry, looking at standards, ethics, but also looking at just good practice in an evolving world. The second is ESG. Again, we've heard a lot about that already, and I think that's front and center for Arab stock exchanges, for Arab markets, for sure. I think that everyone has a lot further to go. And it's going to be an interesting journey in this region. There is clearly will and desire to come forward, and we're seeing very interesting product offerings coming out already. One interesting thing that we find is the existence of faith-based products, such as Sharia Sukak, lend themselves to markets naturally growing into an easier ESG space, because investors are already predisposed to think about kind of faith-based or impact-based investing. We are very focused on our CCP work plan, and that's a very interesting one for this particular region, because even while the use of CCPs is growing, it still lags the rest of the world. So most of the markets in this region use a CSD to mitigate risk, to manage risk, and CCPs are beginning to spring up as markets build their derivatives business. 2, of course, landmark announcements this year. The CME Saudi Tadawul announcement, which involved Dubai, the Dubai market, is going to be very transformational for the derivatives market in this industry. But the use of CCPs, I think, is absolutely a point where the region is going to continue to grow. You've had Mukasa coming out with the new CCP. We've got Dubai Clear, and we've got others coming. So very interesting space. 3 now, let me stop. I can keep going.
No doubt that you could, Nandini, but I think you've planted some seeds that we'll pick up on as well in the discussion. So just continuing on, I think perhaps even picking up on some of those, particularly on products. But Dr. Constantine, your geographic remit includes the region, and as well some others across Eurasia, let's say. What are you seeing in the exchanges, in the jurisdictions that you work in terms of widening the instrument base, not to mention the investor base, but let's maybe start with instruments.
Yes, thank you, Michael. So first of all, let's to have a clear view on the exchanges and on the trading venues. So first of all, we should understand that those are quite different, even within the region. So different markets by size, by the maturity, by the investor base, etc. Quite different. So when it comes to the instruments, so let's talk about bigger exchanges. So for bigger exchanges, as they do not have a survival issue, so usually they are focusing on a particular market, so financial markets, let's call it that way. So that's stocks, that's bonds, sukuk, etc. And as they have enough volumes to finance their activities and not to think about survival, so their instruments are, I would say, are limited to in order not to have echo. Michael, Can you switch? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so they are focusing on more kind of conventional instruments, and of course they are implementing different technologies, etc., to make life easier, etc. For the other markets, where the exchanges are smaller, and they have to implement different kind of measures in order to get enough financial flows. So they are implementing different products and different products and instruments within their markets. So, for example, if we are taking, let's take Armenia, right? And there, at exchange, not only financial instruments are concentrated, but also some others as well. What for? So, the exchanges are centers of expertise and competence in any country. So, and exchange can elaborate on that, having that as a ground. So, what is the expertise of any exchange? It's of course the knowledge of how to make the transaction, then surveillance, as we have been talking before, kind of a regulatory functions as well. So everything which is falling under that can be used for producing new products and new instruments. So to bring you an example, as I have been talking about Armenia, so for example in Armenia, exchange is not only an operator of the trading, but also providing the services of registering, let's say, investment funds. So this is not typical for stock exchanges. Another thing, many exchanges are not only focusing again on the stocks and bonds, which are securities, but also on FX, which is again why they are doing that, because they have expertise, they have technology in place, and they can bring value to the market, especially to the small ones, right? So answering to your question, what kind of instruments are exchanges implementing? It depends on the size. And again, I think that exchanges should be more flexible in this regard. And I think the regulators should support that. So if exchange wants to enter a market which is somehow relevant, and I'm talking not about the legal entity itself, because in many jurisdictions, so though their activities are limited with their license, what they can do and what they cannot do, but not to prevent creating a satellites around this expertise and competence center. So I think that that should be the future for the development of financial markets, when you are concentrating and you are not fragmenting the market itself. First of all, financial market, and secondly, any market and any instrument which is relevant to the trading and to the center of expertise of exchanges.
Yeah, that's very helpful, Konstantin. It reminds me of many years ago working in the Armenian market, developing the first government bonds in Armenia, and lively debate around listing or not listing and role of exchanges and the currency exchange as well. Some of it is some coming from historical legacy, but also you're quite right about the scale, depending on the market, and taking a pragmatic approach to develop to achieve the same results that we want of liquidity, scale, etc., and to find a local solution. Sylvain, you're a little bit different in the sense that you're representing an international CSD. But with that's operating in many markets. But you're looking here, and I think in our pre-chats we identified a few differentials in market infrastructure and the approach taken in the region that sets it apart from some other regions. And can you talk about a little bit about the perhaps reasons for that and suitability and some challenges and opportunities that brings up?
Sure. I think I will come a bit from a different place compared to maybe the market at the moment or my colleagues on the panel, is that I think it's the Middle East and Africa, but we'll focus on the Middle East today, is going through a transformation. I mean, a lot has been done already. A lot is still to be done in order to top up the game as well, to be more the international standard and to achieve the different targets that the different jurisdictions fix to themselves. Stock exchanges in the region remain really central. They lead the way on many initiatives, because first, depository in the different market belongs to stock exchanges, so they try to link them together as much as possible, where in more mature market, you still have a difference, a more evident difference between the exchange role and the depository. So if you look at the advancements that are being done at the moment, you feel that it comes from a protectionism point of view as well, in order to make sure that the inflow and the outflow is always structured and regulated. But I think it's central on the equities market. This is why we see more and more IPOs coming in the region. And then you got something new for the Middle East specifically, which is the fixed income and the debt market, which is by nature a market that is way more over the counter, so OTC, but we still have market regulators that are trying to keep it in-house and to keep it as well at the level of the exchanges, as well at the level of all the CCPs that are booming in the region at the moment. So I think it will continue evolving. You will continue seeing a lot of maturity coming in the market, but it will require to get a bit more in line with what the rest of the world is doing, in order to have each and every institution doing exactly the role that they're supposed to play in their own market. So it's really interesting to see the journey. Like Nandini mentioned, you have CCPs coming, and Saudi advanced a bit more. They appointed an entity called InstiMatch in order to have a trading venue that will facilitate the derivative flow, the cash flow, the FX, the swaps as well. But they also want to put the repo as an example, which is then a challenge, because if you want to attract liquidity, or more liquidity, let's say, and attract foreign investors, you have to give them the flexibility that is required for this kind of activities.
Yeah, I'm glad you're going in that direction, Sylvain. So, I mean, if we look at historically, this region had equity markets before fixed income markets. Normally, it's the other way around, and perhaps the more fundamental instrument is a treasury bill, and then a treasury bond, and so on, and then others develop upon that in kind of a pyramid. Trading in fixed income is actually dwarfed by trading the repo market. It's little known, and we have only the beginnings, I think, of a repo market in the region. So, I mean, if I can just scratch a little more on this question, do you think that the infrastructures that we're developing in the region will be up to the task?
I think that's a big construction site, for lack of word. It's just that they have this journey in mind. They want to support that. Certain markets are a bit more advanced already. I think they tried with their own domestic repo market. Like you look at the UAE. The UAE, they have a really well-functioning discount window, which is providing liquidity to the market from the central bank point of view. So it's not per se a repo, but it acts as a repo still. So they are trying their way. Saudi decided to keep it on stock as well, which is as well a bit of it stops a bit the flow, because then you impose to the market to come in a certain direction that is not natural for big institutions where they decide to start entering a jurisdiction. So you are forcing them to operate in a different way that is not as liquid as you want. So, and I think today we also wanted to touch base on this liquidity part, which stock exchange is bringing when it comes to equity. I mean, it's central to have a proper liquidity around the equity market to be on stock. But when it comes to a natural repo that is utilizing a fixed income and debt market, then the bond market is OTC. So that's a bit the journey where those markets are going through at the moment. And I think it will take a bit of time, because regulatory matters needs to be adjusted and amended. But it's a big part of the strategy in order to attract foreign money in a proper way.
May I comment on that? Because that was also the discussion within several countries regarding whether, for example, money market instruments should be on the exchange or not. And as I said, so if the technology is there and the regulation part is there, I think we should not limit that. I mean, if the exchange can do that, why to push it to OTC, right? So I'm advocating for exchanges. So
that's the beauty of this discussion today, is that you face this challenge as well when we discuss together and you discuss with the market, because they say that's a way for me to regulate my environment. The stock exchange is a good way first for one thing that is crucial, which is disclosure. And it helps the market to disclose properly and to have a view on the beneficial owner and the ultimate beneficial owner as well. So I think this is why exchanges remain really central in the Middle East, because of this fear of the in and out flow of capital and money. So this is of importance. Now, should this be restricted to one direction? I think this is where flexibility will come in the picture, because you need to allow the market to say, look, I will go on exchange, or then I will go OTC, because that's my other option.
Nandini.
Thanks. It's a lively and fascinating conversation already. So if you look at the trend, right, the OTC market, and I'm speaking big picture, has traditionally dwarfed the exchange-traded market in all the big markets. And there is a reason for this. And the reason for this is because even while there is some regulation and some transparency in the OTC market, your margins are always going to be lower in the exchange-traded market, where there is disclosure, transparency, the regulators crawling over every inch of your business, you're reporting all the time, the finance ministry calls you if there's an outage in your market. So these are all reasons why, especially in maturing markets and developing markets, you need the exchange to be absolutely at the heart of the ecosystem, and you need the regulator and you need the stakeholders, and it's not fashionable so much to talk about the role of the stakeholder, but you need them to support the exchange. You need them to embrace the exchange rather than just going off to the OTC market where their margin is going to be higher. When you bring a product, all over the world, bringing new product to the market, to the exchange on an exchange-traded platform is considered part of the innovation that an exchange brings. So there should never be a restriction. It's up to the exchange if they can identify a niche in the market, and I would say an exchange understands the market better than anyone else. So if they can identify a niche in the market and bring a product that solves the problem, then they should be allowed to. And I think so often, if you looked at the way it's played out in crypto over the last 3 years, when exchanges tried to bring product onto an exchange-traded platform, they found themselves with a year's worth of regulatory conversation. Whereas across the road, a crypto platform was setting up shop and trading. So that's some of the kind of friction that you need to erase to have a liquid, vibrant market.
Sure, well understood. And I think the market participants will migrate to what is efficient, and but as well, I think as well you point out the need for transparency, including in fixed income markets. And I think that even in so-called advanced markets, that had been lagging, and efforts have been made for a unified tape and things like this to shed more light on an OTC fixed income market, which can be, in a sense, an exchange can do that. We want to bring in, as well as we're in the region, the Islamic finance component, which is a key component here, and I hope that Ahmad can hear me. I'm thinking.
Yes, thank you so much, Michel. I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. You can express in Arabic or English as you prefer. But we'd love to hear from you. I think we've begun to touch on this a little bit when we've talked about repo and sukuk to some extent. Where do you see, you've worked a lot on standards, working with AOFI and so on, and that has a tremendous influence on the fixed income, the Islamic fixed income market, sukuk specifically. how do you see those standards? Do you see those standards contributing to the market? Standardization has always been a critical question in the Islamic finance market.
Thank you for the efforts. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I will do something different. I will speak in Arabic, and thank you for the translator. طبعا نحن سنتحدث في هذا اللقاء عن موضوع الصكوك وموضوع الستاندرز أو المعايير التي تنظم إصدارات الصكوك أو إصدارات الانسترومنتس الانفستمنت انسترومنتس أو الأدوات الاستثمارية الموجودة في الشرق الأوسط إذا أردنا أن نتحدث عن البورصات العربية أسواق المال العربية. وجود معايير تتماشى فعلا مع متطلبات السوق، مع متطلبات المصدرين، الجهات أو الشركات التي تبحث عن التمويل من خلال الأسواق المالية ومتطلبات المستثمرين، أمر في غاية الأهمية. بكل صدق لم يكن هناك تركيز كبير على موضوع المعايير الشرعية والمعايير المحاسبية الإسلامية في أسواق المال. كان التركيز أكبر على هذه المعايير في القطاع المصرفي بسبب وجود أحجام كبيرة من أصول التمويل المصرفي الإسلامي لم تكن موجودة في الأسواق المالية الإسلامية بنفس الحجم، حيث من المتوقع أن تبلغ أصول التمويل الإسلامي العالمي إلى 6.7 تريليون دولار بحلول عام 2027، وهذا رقم ضخم جدا. ولكن هناك حاجة لتطوير معايير شرعية تتماشى وتخدم أسواق رأس المال العربية بشكل أكبر، حيث تمثل الصكوك الخضراء مثلا، الصكوك المستدامة، موضوعا رئيسيا في مؤتمر الأمم المتحدة المعني بتغيير المناخ. وصل إصدارات الصكوك وفق معايير البيئة والمجتمع الصكوك المستدامة إلى أكثر من 8.4 مليار دولار في عام 2022، وهي تتزايد بشكل كبير جدا. من المتوقع أن تزداد سنويا بنسبة تصل إلى 10%. نحن نتحدث عن انسترومنت استثمارية واحدة التي هي الصكوك، فماذا عن بعض الأدوات الاستثمارية الأخرى التي من الممكن أن تعتمد على الابتكار الموجود في التمويل الإسلامي أو الابتكار الموجود خلف المعايير الشرعية والمعايير المحاسبية الإسلامية. ضرورة الاهتمام أكثر ربما بإصدار معايير خاصة فقط للأسواق المالية العربية تكون يعني ترتكز بشكل كبير على حاجات السوق وحاجات المستثمرين بنفس الوقت وحاجات الجهات أو الحاجة التي تحتاجها الجهات المصدرة لهذه الصكوك. تطوير هذه المعايير أمر في غاية الأهمية. أعتقد ابتداء من اليوم وحتى ال5 سنوات المقبلة سيكون هناك دور كبير للأصول المالية الإسلامية في الأسواق العربية وفي أسواق المال العربية. هذا أمر في غاية الأهمية. إن أردنا أن نتحدث عن معايير هيئة المحاسبة والمراجعة للمؤسسات المالية الإسلامية أيوفي، كان هناك اهتمام كبير من هيئة المحاسبة والمراجعة للمؤسسات المالية الإسلامية الموجودة في البحرين أيوفي. كان هناك اهتمام بمعيار الصكوك ومعيار الصناديق الاستثمارية، وتم تطوير أيضا معيار محاسبي إسلامي يتماشى مع معايير IFRS. هذا المعيار أيضا يهتم بالإفصاح عن إصدارات الصكوك. هو معيار ربما يكون بدرجة من الدرجات توعوي للمؤسسات التي تقوم بإصدار هذه المعايير، حتى يكون هناك تكامل بين جميع الأطراف، بين هيئات أسواق المال وبين الإدارات المشرفة على الأسواق المالية وبين مصدرين الصكوك، لنصل مصدرين الصكوك أو حتى المشرفين على الصناديق الاستثمارية أو مصدرين أي أداة من الأدوات الاستثمارية الإسلامية، حتى يكون هناك تكامل وتطوير حقيقي لمنتجات شرعية أو منتجات استثمارية متوافقة مع أحكام الشريعة الإسلامية بشكل واقعي. ربما يختلف من أحد التحديات التي نواجهها في الأسواق العربية بشكل عام، أسواق المال العربية، هناك اختلاف بين المعيار أو بين المتطلبات النظرية وبين الواقع، فيكون تطبيق هذه المعايير ربما فيه بعض النقص في بعض الأحيان، فبالتالي نحتاج إلى رفع مستويات الوعي وبشكل حقيقي وكبير من خلال كثير جدا من ورشات العمل للمستثمرين وللمصدرين ولجميع أصحاب المصلحة، لنصل بالنهاية إلى وجود منتج استثماري يلبي حاجات المجتمع، وأيضا هو منتج مبتكر بشكل من الأشكال. كما نعلم الكثير من الانسترومنتس او الانفستمنت انسترومنتس او ادوات الاستثمار الاسلاميه فيها ابتكار، هي لا تعتمد على الفيكست انكم، هي لا تعتمد على وجود ارباح شهريه فقط، لا تكون العلاقه بين الاطراف هي علاقه دين. نحن نتحدث هنا عن مشروعات، عن مساهمه او مشاركه من قبل المستثمر في مشروعات قدمها المتمول الذي سجل في الأسواق المالية ليحصل على هذا التمويل من قبل المستثمرين، وطبعا تحت مظلة هيئات أسواق المال والريجوليترز الموجودين في السوق. هذه ربما التوأمة بين المستثمر وبين المصدر للصكوك مثلا أو لأي انسترومنت أخرى مهمة جدا. قبل أن نطبق المعيار أعتقد من الأهم أن نرفع مستوى الوعي. الآن إذا أنا سألت أغلب المستثمرين ليشرح لي مثلا ما هو الصك الذي يقوم بشرائه من البنوك، هل هذا هو صك إجارة أو صك يعتمد على الاستصناع أو يعتمد على السلم أو يعتمد على أي تقنية من التقنيات المصرفية أو المالية أو الاستثمارية الإسلامية؟ في كثير من الحالات لن نحصل على إجابة واضحة من المستثمر. دور المستثمر أيضا مهم ليفهم ما هو الفرق تماما بين الصكوك أو أدوات الاستثمار المتوافقة مع أحكام الشريعة الإسلامية وبين الأدوات التقليدية. طبعا احنا لا نتحدث فقط عن المجتمع المسلم الذي يتطلع للحصول على أرباح حلال، نحن نتحدث بشكل عام. هناك الكثير جدا من المستثمرين هم يبحثون عن شفافية في الأدوات الاستثمارية ويبحثون عن أرباح نقية مرتبطة مباشرة بالمشروعات، وطبعا هناك معايير أيضا تطبق على هذه المشروعات التي يتم أصلا تمويلها من خلال الصكوك أو من خلال الأدوات الاستثمارية الأخرى.
Thank you, Ahmad. That's quite illuminating, and absolutely it is to be looked at as an opportunity, a special opportunity that the region has when we look at to support the sustainable development goals, etc. And faith-based investing is going to be a critical part of that. It also comes with challenges, as you point out, and that is to create market-friendly instruments that investors want and can use, and as well, we have another challenge, I think, which is that standardization, awareness, as you say, and understanding, and standards should be, to the extent possible, global and regional, but our regulation is national still, and this has created some challenges, particularly with some application at different paces by different regulators, including the UAE Central Bank, for example, which has certain applied in a very sort of strict and immediate way, faster than others, some of the AOFI standards. I was wondering if others on the panel had some thoughts about, for example, other challenges in implementing Islamic finance or in maximizing some of the opportunities that, and some of your experiences. Sylvain?
Yeah, I think maybe, and what is interesting is that, and to create the link like Ahmad was mentioning, is that a lot of criteria in the Islamic finance are actually falling under the criteria of ESG for many of them. So if you look, and you were well positioned as well, Michael, for that, if you look at the revolution that went around the sukuk market itself, and what happened in the last 6-7 years, I think it matured already somehow, the sukuk market, and the Islamic finance is at a stage that is way more advanced and structured. Now, and you have interesting initiatives, such as the one of the Central Bank of the UAE, saying how do you combine actually two criteria, the ESG side and the Islamic finance, the sukuk, in order to actually tackle a wider market of investors, and then to fulfill, many different obligations that are coming the way of investors as well as issuers. So that's an interesting journey that started already. We should see some of those developments by beginning of next year, at least in the UAE. I'm not aware of other of the jurisdiction around, but they are trying to combine and to utilize the criteria and the way sukuk market is working, and it's established by the scholars, in order to find a dual approach between the ESG, if you can say, trends and the sukuk market that is at a more mature stage than the ESG and sustainable finance, in my opinion.
Interesting. Konstantin.
Yeah, just a short comment. And look, when we have been talking about green bonds, the major issue was that investors or the companies, they compare the main parameter of the fixed income, right, interest rate. So, and through that comparison, they understand that there is not big difference, I mean, from the company perspective, right? But at the same time, they have to invest a lot to comply with ESG bonds, for example. So when we are talking about sukuk, and if we are not declaring, let's say, that main parameter like interest, and we are playing on the other ones, so that will benefit. I mean, that will help a lot in order to promote that instrument. Definitely, binding sukuk. And based on the ESG principles. So my short 5 comments.
So it's a natural place for Arab markets to go. There is competition already, right? So we know that Malaysia has a very strong offering in sukuk, and there is competition emerging in other parts of the world as well, where there are large financial centers. So I think one of the things, or one of the challenges, but also the opportunity, is to find kind of the niche sukuk product. There are lots of markets, lots of exchanges in the world that have built thriving businesses out of having niche products, and then they service that market. And often, I'm going to cite 2, for example, like if you look at the Bermuda Stock Exchange, they are a tiny exchange, but they are headquartered, their base is the world's largest reinsurance market, right? So they specialize basically in insurance-linked securities because that's what their domestic jurisdiction, which is large, even though it's a small island, requires. If you look at the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, they specialize, or they dominate the market for green bonds. And there are a couple of markets. There's Ireland and there's Cayman as well, but Luxembourg really dominate the market for green bonds. So there are exchanges and jurisdictions which have basically thrived by finding the problem that they need to solve and then going out and solving it. And then you find that, especially with reasonably niche markets and products, liquidity tends to concentrate in that one market. It's very unusual to find 5 markets, trading the same thing if it's a niche product. Having said that, by some statistic, up to 30% of the world's population is or will be Muslim over the next 5 years, which suggests that potentially it's a large market. 30% is not small at all.
Again, it's think of it as opportunity. Opportunities come with challenge. Yeah. Mindful again about Ahmed, please. I think, did I hear?
Yeah, I have one point. If you want to talk about the sustainable finance or the sustainable sukuk or ESG sukuk or any ESG or sustainable investment instruments, we are talking about Islamic instruments or Islamic finance instruments in real way, because the Sharia requirements will focus on the same ideas that we have to be sustainable in our finance. We have to make sure that we are finance real projects for the new generations for the future. in this point that we all the time we have to link and think that all Islamic instruments linked with the sustainable finance or sustainable investment instruments.
Yeah, maybe exactly, that's by nature. Actually, they are structured in a way that it's not new for the Islamic environment, because the criteria actually is around that. It's about social, it's about where the money goes, it's about transparency, it's about, Sharia compliant criteria. And this is where I think it will continue booming, because it doesn't require a lot of changes for the Islamic product to also fall in the stamp of the sustainable finance and the ESG as we see it. And John earlier was mentioning the taxonomy, that is the UAE is looking at taxonomy, other markets in the region are looking at taxonomy in order to say, okay, look, this is the framework that we want, and if you analyze the Sharia compliant product, they actually fulfill most of the criteria already, which is actually a good position to be in, especially for a region like the Middle East, because a lot of issuers are issuing under the Sharia laws. So I think it's an opportunity in the going, and it will continue growing as well.
Yeah, and I think it's a golden opportunity for that, whereas both the region plays on this, and it helps to introduce the global new ESG-oriented global investors to the region to take advantage of that as they scour the world for green opportunities, and some of them will be in Sharia-compliant format. So, mindful of time, I think we'll just make a last question. If I could ask, if we meet again in 1 year, what would you like to see from exchanges in the region? Perhaps a bit unfair, but you can answer any way you like. If I can start with Nandini.
I would like to see, first of all, I would like to see new product, and I think that's happening. The pipeline is full. Exchanges are innovating in that space. I would like to see support from the regulatory community and the state, because the exchange can't do it alone. It's an ecosystem growth thing. You have to walk the journey with your stakeholders, and exchanges can't be alone the ones bringing listing to market. You need that enabling ecosystem around them. You need a multiple kind of policy incentives pushing them, pushing issuers onto the market as well. So, and it needs to be a push. It needs to be an incentive push, right? It can't be that the private markets are so attractive that nobody wants to come out onto the public markets, because that's not a helpful environment to be in. And finally, I think what we will see and would like to see, and I think we are beginning to see already, is you'll see more and more you'll see more and more kind of maturity in the market in terms of trading strategies, in terms of education, which is a huge piece of what is required in this region. Education, not only financial literacy, but kind of quite technical education. There's often, I think, in the region, because it is resource heavy, it's easy enough to hire a consultant. So what we are seeing increasingly is our members, becoming the technical expert in a very good way.
Yeah, briefly, I would like to see more harmonization and let's say, bringing in line the regulations across at least GCC and more and beyond that. That will help not only to the regulators, but to the markets itself. Yeah.
Maybe to have a last positive note as well, and to showcase the appetite of the environment we are in, and we see the world looking at us as well. In my opinion, I've been here for more than a decade, and now it's in continuation. So, and to focus on what Nandini mentioned, is that how centric an exchange is in its own market. I think in the last few months we saw some new trends, and to your point as well of the diversification of type of assets or instruments coming in the region. You have big issuers that are coming with appetite to list in domestic markets in the region. And this is where I think the different exchanges should come even more together, because then you will be able to bring appetite on the issuer side to list in the domestic market here in order to distribute their own product in a way, in an easier approach, and also to create additional liquidity. You take the example of big issuers of ETFs such as BlackRock, Vanguard, Invesco, and the like. They came to the market a few weeks ago, in the last few months, just to analyze the stock exchanges in the region and to say, look, I have a product that is by nature multi-listed. How can I take advantage of this market in order to get an immediate liquidity by listing my own product into the exchanges? So that's one of the big opportunities that I see, is to attract foreign issuers in the market. It's to offer them the possibility of listing domestically in the different booming jurisdictions. And the other one, where we have discussions with different markets as well, again on the multi-listing, is an initially issued instrument, and that's more on the equity side, will be issued out of a jurisdiction in the region, listed in different stock exchange in the region, but for further reach will go at listing in Euronext, in the London Stock Exchange, and in other foreign exchanges in order to give visibility to domestic equities. And I think that's also a point to continue the attraction of the market, is to allow these kind of exchanges to continue the interaction with institutions like my colleagues, in order to expand the reach of the Middle East in the rest of the world via the listing on different markets.
Thanks, Sylvain. And a final word to Ahmad.
Yeah, I have one point about the challenges that we are facing in the Arab markets, or financial markets or capital markets. It's the awareness. I think the level of awareness should be supported more. Awareness for investors, awareness for listed companies and their employees, awareness inside the environment or stakeholders around markets should be increased, and flexibility. We need more flexibility from regulatory parties to match between the real requirements with the needs in our markets, or the needs of the finance in general. And another word, I can add something related to the AI and the technology and the blockchain technologies. They are very important to develop something very new, to make everything very clear from all of parties. And I think we need to work a lot for the future 5 years to customize.
Okay, thank you, Ahmed. I think you're I don't know if we should take a message, but your internet is becoming unstable at this moment. It's probably a signal that we should wind up and allow the next panel on. Thank you. You've each given us not only content for the next meeting of this conference, but also quite a bit to work on in the year ahead. So please join me in thanking our esteemed panelists.